Well, good morning, everybody. How y'all doing? Pretty good here, and welcome to the channel. Before we get... Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe this video, or any video on the channel. Anyway, what I'm going to do today, we've got the Tacoma set up here behind me, and I'm always curious when I go with an exhaust, what it sounds like going down the road, you know? And in the past, I've tried to do some videos like that, where I have mounted a camera on the outside, but I always get a ton of wind noise. You can't hear anything. So, I think I may have solved that, I don't know. What we're gonna do, I've mounted a camera underneath the truck to kind of get rid of any kind of wind buffeting from, you know, going down the road. And what I've done, you guys can see it right here. That's where the camera is located, kind of stuck on a piece of metal up above. And of course, we have the exhaust right here. So I should be able to pick up a lot of what the exhaust sounds like going down the road. Now, hopefully, during the video, you won't see the camera go tumbling, because if you do, that means that it didn't stay up there and I've lost the camera. Although hopefully able to recover it, or you'll never see the video, obviously. But I hope that doesn't happen. It's a 3M adhesive. It should hold pretty well. So we're gonna get the truck down. I'm gonna do a cold start with the camera running, so you'll be able to hear it in that position with the camera running. And then we're gonna take off and we're gonna go down the road and see what the exhaust sounds like on the outside of the truck while driving. Stay tuned. Okay, I'm back. I've got the Tacoma sitting up there in its resting place. We did the test. A couple of things about the test. Of course, I didn't know how it was going to turn out until I actually did it. I did watch the video back, and we didn't get any high-speed, long-distance driving, and that's because there's a lot of wind noise under the truck, and the way the camera works is it kind of filters out background noise. And in this case, in doing that, it filtered out everything. So it was just silent driving in some spots. But I was able to capture what the truck sounds like from stop and go and then just low speed cruising where I didn't have a lot of that background noise, if you will, for the camera to filter out. So we did get something good out of it, as well as an under the truck rear end view, I guess, which I thought was pretty cool. You could kind of see how the suspension worked a little bit. You could see the tires and that kind of stuff, and whether the exhaust actually bounces around a lot under there. Which leads me to another thing before we get to the exhaust part of it. You know, I've seen a few comments on the web about people's trucks being noisy, you know, and asking the question, does your truck squeak? Does it rattle? Does it make a lot of noise? You know, suspension and creaking kind of noises when you go down the road. And you'll know what I'm talking about if you've ever been in an older vehicle, particularly a truck. They're very creaky, you know. The bed is separate from the cab, so everything kind of articulates and makes its own noises and rattles and things, you know, from the leaf springs to, you know, the shocks and other suspension pieces and bits and stuff, tend to make a lot of noise. Now, one thing that I did get from this, I didn't get any of that with the Tacoma. There weren't a lot of body noises, if you will. I didn't hear any creaks. I didn't hear any rattling. I couldn't even hear the chain. You guys may have noticed the chain that hangs down from the spare tire. That, of course, is how it raises and lowers. I didn't even hear any sounds from that. So kudos to the Tacoma. No squeaks and rattles or any of that kind of stuff from the exterior or from underneath. So that's kind of cool. It was kind of cool to see. Now, to get to the exhaust. At the end of this video, there's going to be a startup and a couple of revs of the MBRP exhaust that I had on before, just to kind of get a little point of reference as to what that sounded like. Now, the TRD exhaust obviously is much quieter. You get what I guess I would call a low spectrum grumble. You know, it's a pretty bass sound. It's very low and not very predominant, I guess, in the truck. Now, you do hear it, and I must say, the longer I've driven the truck or the more that I've driven it, the more pronounced it seems to be getting. In other words, things seem to be breaking up a little bit, or breaking in a little bit, I guess I should say. So it does seem to get a little bit louder and a little bit grumblier, I guess. I can hear it in the cab, I swear, better than I could when I first put it on. It just seems to be a little bit louder. Now, when you're driving around, there is a little bit of a grumble that comes out of it. It's not hugely different, I don't think, than what the OEM exhaust, the exhaust that came on it was, except for just a little bit lower pitch to it. So I think if you're looking for a lot of noise and a lot of sound, the TRD exhaust is probably not for you, at least not on the Tacoma back there. And that's due, really, I think, to the fact that it has a V6 motor. You know, it just doesn't put out the kind of sound, the volume that the V8 does, because it's completely different with the TRD exhaust on the V8 Tundra, which is right there. It is much louder, much grumblier. I think that the Tundra should come with the TRD exhaust. I mean, it is such a profound difference, and it's a good thing. It's not overly loud. It won't drive you nuts when you're driving down the road. It doesn't have any kind of a drone to it, if you will, on the Tundra. Which brings me back to the Tacoma up here. You know, my biggest problem with the MBRP for me was sound in the cabin. I'm not sure if I'd call it a drone just as much as I would call it noise, sound. You could hear it. You could hear it all the time. It didn't really matter, especially when cruising at higher speeds. In my tests that I've done and just driving around and stuff with the TRD exhaust, you don't get that. If you listen for it and you don't have the radio on and nobody's sitting there beside you talking, you can hear it. But it is such a low-pitched kind of grumbly sound, if you will, growl, I guess, just slightly, that you can hear it if you listen for it. But it's definitely nothing that's going to overpower a conversation. that's going to make people that in the truck talk louder because you have that exhaust on it. It's certainly nothing like that at all. Unlike the MBRP, which is, like I said, a little bit louder. Nothing wrong with that. If that's what you're looking for, then that's what you probably ought to go ahead and get. Now, in comparing the two, would I get the TRD exhaust again? Did it accomplish my goals? Absolutely. You know, I was looking, like I said, to reduce noise in the cabin. I certainly did that. Have the look of the TRD exhaust with that tip on the back, which I certainly have. It's an awesome looking tip. And still a little bit of sound when I want it. I mean, if you get on the truck, as you probably could hear in some of my older videos or other videos where I had just installed that exhaust, you can definitely hear it if you get on the truck. But you're not going to hear it during normal driving, and it's not going to drive you nuts in the cabin. Anyway, just wanted to do that little test. We got to hear a little bit of what it sounded like at lower speeds, and I'm very satisfied with it. I'd highly recommend it unless you're looking for something that is going to give you a lot of sound in the cabin. As usual, appreciate you guys watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Let me know what you think, and we'll see you next time on the web. Have a great day. Bye.